A rite of passage can be defined as a ritual or ceremony signifying an event in a person's life that indicates the transition from one phase to the other. Rites of passage are universal, and most concentrate on the transitional stage, which is known as liminal, from the Latin limen, meaning threshold, because it is full of uncertainty. Archaeological burial evidence finds strongly suggest that these rites were performed in the very early stages of human civilization. French archaeologist Arnold van Gennep believed that rites of passage consisted of 3 stages. He theorized that a person is first symbolically separated from their old status, undergoes an adjustment to a new status during the period of transition, and is finally reincorporated in society according to their new status. Religious rites for the youth typically include a form of birth celebration, as well as a form of initiation or coming-of-age ceremony. All religions exhibit some forms of these rites, with each emphasizing the physical, intellectual, and spiritual growth of the individual. The moral and ethical code of the society and religion impacts the type of instruction and kinds of values that are implemented during these important transitions. Hindu rites of passage, called samskaras, serve to purify the soul at critical points in life. Samskara means mental impression, and the ceremonies help to create a good mental impression for stepping positively from one phase in life to the next. These passages are considered to be essential for members of the 3 higher varnas in the Hindu caste system. The 4 sets of rites that are most commonly practiced among Hindus include jatakarma, the birth ceremony, upanayana, the initiation ceremony, vivhaha, a marriage ceremony, and antyetshi, the funeral and rites for the dead. The birth ceremony's jatakarma welcomes the baby into the world. The main objective of these ceremonies is to inculcate Hindu values into the child even when they are ignorant about their importance. Jatakarma ceremonies go back into the time of Lord Krishna, which dates to 5,000 years ago by Hindu tradition. During the initial ceremony, performed in the home after the child is born, the father places a small amount of ghee, which is liquid butter, and honey on the baby's tongue and whispers the name of Lord Krishna in his ear. On the 11th day after birth, the parents celebrate the name-giving ceremony. The name is traditionally chosen according to the position of the moon on the child's birth chart and horoscope. The child is dressed neatly in clothes, and its name is whispered into its ear 3 times by the father, in addition to being written with rice on a plate to symbolically announce it. These rites are always followed by an obligatory feast, and sometimes include songs, and a haven, or fire sacrifice. Other ceremonies follow, each symbolizing different phases of childhood, including a child's first outing at 2 weeks, the first haircut at 1 to 3 years, and the piercing of the lobes at 3 to 5 years of age. The sacred thread ceremony, or upanayana, is a rite of passage ritual where the concepts of Brahman and the nature of the ultimate reality is introduced to a young boy. It also marks the beginning of the learning of the Vedic texts. It is typically practiced among the 3 highest classes and symbolizes the boy's acceptance into his caste position, or varna, at which point he becomes twice born. Upanayana means sitting close by the guru, or spiritual teacher, and traditionally the boy would move away from his home to a teacher's home, where significance was placed on studying the Vedas and developing character. Even members of the royal family were trained to live simply, without luxuries or sense gratification, in order to keep their minds pure and unspoiled. The ceremony itself includes shaving of the head, bathing and wearing new clothes, receiving the sacred thread, and listening to the Gayatri mantra from a priest or guru, who may also give the boy a new spiritual name. The janoi, or sacred thread, consists of 3 folds, representing the Hindu goddesses Gayatri, the goddess of mind, Saraswati, the goddess of word, and Savitri, the goddess of deed. One who wears the sacred thread must be pure in his thought, word, and deed. The knot in the middle represents Brahman, the pure form of energy that permeates all and that illustrates the fact that everything in the universe emerges from and is somehow connected with Brahman. The thread is traditionally hung over the left shoulder and is to be worn one's entire life, being replaced each year in a changeover ceremony. After the Upanayana ceremony, the child is to recite the Gayatri mantra 3 times a day, at dawn, noon, and dusk. The Upanayana ceremony is traditionally only open to boys. However, with changing attitudes, some Hindu groups initiate girls as well, although they usually do not receive the janoi. The rites of passage in the Jewish faith also mark the transition from one life stage to the next, while emphasizing the increase in responsibility and value in the community. Through these rites of passage, Jews learn to identify themselves as members of the chosen people, with special duties and responsibilities. The major events surrounding the life of a Jewish youth include birth, which is celebrated with a brit milah or simchat bat, and the coming of age, celebrated by a bar or bat mitzvah. The brit milah ceremony is a circumcision rite that is performed 8 days after birth, following the example from the Torah, which states that Abraham circumcised Isaac on the 8th day. This ceremony confirms the transition of the infant from being a child of Adam to being a member of the Jewish people, now entering the covenant of Abraham. A mohel, or ritually trained surgeon, performs the minor operation as delegated by the father. The mohel temporarily places the child in the chair of Elijah, which is symbolic in the hopes of redemption, before giving the child to the sandek, which is the godfather, to hold during the operation, according to ancient procedure. After the circumcision, the boy is handed to the father, while the mohel recites blessings and announces the name of the child, usually expressed as son of Abraham. Some boys may have double names, a Hebrew and a related vernacular name. The formal birth ritual for infant girls is called a simchat bat. The ceremony welcomes newborn girls into the covenant between God and Israel. Traditionally, girls have been given their names in a simple naming ceremony. However, many new birth ceremonies have been introduced in the recent years, including the simchat bat, which means rejoicing of the daughter. Because there is no established ritual for infant girls, the elements of the celebration of birth are open to the personal wishes of the parents or caregivers. Bar and bat mitzvah ceremonies celebrate the coming of age of Jewish boys or girls. Bar mitzvah literally means son of the commandment, and bat mitzvah is translated as daughter of the commandment. These ceremonies are typically a regular Sabbath service in which the young boy or girl participates for the first time as an adult and takes on numerous responsibilities. At 13 and 12 years of age, respectively, boys and girls are now morally responsible for their own actions, are old enough to be married under the Jewish law, and are able to own possessions as personal property. During the actual ceremony, the child is called up to read the Torah, the most holy of sacred writings in Judaism. This act is called an aliyah, from the Hebrew meaning to rise, to ascend, to go up. The reading of the Torah is symbolic in the transition to adulthood and marks the young boy or girl to being an official member of the Jewish community. Most of the time, congregations require a child to participate in up to 4 years of formal religious instruction if they wish to hold a bar or bat mitzvah in that synagogue. The study of the Torah traditionally begins very early, ages 3 to 4 years for boys, and includes having the child find and trace letters of their names, which are covered in honey, symbolizing the hope for the sweetness of life devoted to the Torah. A pair of black leather boxes containing parchment including Bible verses, called a tefillin, is typically worn 30 days before the 13th birthday of a Jewish male, symbolizing God bringing the children out of Israel, out of slavery in Egypt. Bat mitzvahs are a fairly recent development and were first performed in 1922. Traditionally, it was thought that young girls did not need a bat mitzvah rite because they didn't have the same rights as men to read the Torah or to be counted in a minyan, a group of people required for religious obligations. However, with the expansion of women's rights, the bat mitzvah has grown enormously in popularity and is even practiced by many Orthodox Jews. Christian rites of passage are most often referred to as sacraments and can vary from different degrees under different denominations, or large group of religious congregations united under a common faith and name. Baptism, Eucharist, confirmation, and marriage are some of the rites that are celebrated in most Christian churches. Catholic churches practice all of these sacraments, while some Protestant churches place less importance on them or ignore some altogether. Baptism is a practice most readily associated with Christianity and comes from the Greek baptizo, translated as immersing.